Now, Mormonism has not been my main focus for quite some time now. We'll still talk about it, and when the big compromise movement started, where you had evangelicals and Mormons together, and Erdman's publishing Mormon books, and just all sorts of lunacy like that, we address those things. But since last 10 to 12 years, there has been such a massive change in Mormonism. And I think they recognized they needed to give up. And trust me, if there hadn't been a Gerald and Sandra Tanner, if there hadn't been folks up there in Salt Lake City, Bill McKeever and guys like that, but especially Gerald and Sandra Tanner, I don't know that we'd be seeing this. I really think that once that information, it was one thing for when I first visited Gerald and Sandra's operation, they had these racks of paper, and they put their books together by taking page, 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 and then it wasn't velo binding, it was some other kind of the binding. We've got a bazillion books. No, the plastic, it's just a tall stack of paper drilled through with this plastic thing sealed onto it with plastic covers. All the old books from the Tanners in the other room.
I'm sure that Twitter will come up with the word here in a moment.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, I forgot to go in channel. Maybe somebody in channel would know. I forgot to do that. Anyways, so they, the Mormon Church knew that people like the Tanners were putting that information out there. There are books on archaeology in the Book of Mormon and photocopies. That stuff was out there. But they figured, what can one small little bookstore down in Salt Lake City really do as far as reaching the millions of people? Well, then something came along called the internet. And the internet changed everything. And Mormonism, over the past decade and a half now, has been publishing books with material in it that we used to carry around in that thing and have to, drag out and show to people. And they're like, no way. Oh, no, I don't trust that. Now, LDS scholars and historians are publishing this stuff. And stuff that we could only speculate about. If you're familiar with the story of Joseph Smith, if you read the documentary History of the Church, if you've read Times and Seasons, if you've read almost anything by Gerald and Sandra Tanner, you know about the Seer Stone. And you know that all of the early sources talk about how Joseph Smith would use this Seer Stone, and he would put it in his hat, and he would cover his face with his hat, and in the darkness the spiritual light would shine. He was even brought up on charges. He was brought up before a civil magistrate for basically hoodwinking people. Yeah, glass-looking was the charge. Of pretending to be able to find hidden treasures or wells, the witching rods. Remember the witching rods and stuff like that? He would get people to pay him money to find ancient treasures, hidden treasures. This stuff even ended up in the Book of Mormon. Because when he would get all excited, I think it's right here, they start digging, and it became slippery. It's been cursed. And if it was cursed, it would become slippery, and it would slide deeper into the earth, and that's why they couldn't get it. Good way to keep your $2 fee or whatever. And that ends up in the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon talks about a curse on the land and stuff becoming slippery and all the rest of this weirdness. And so there is even an association of the Seer Stone with the translation of the Book of Mormon, even though some of the stories, the Book of Mormon was accompanied by the Urim and the Thummim, which is these spectacles that allowed Joseph Smith to translate Reformed Egyptian hieroglyphics. But other stories were that Joseph Smith used the Seer Stone as the mechanism of translating the Book of Mormon. And so you had the golden plates, but Joseph Smith would put the Seer Stone in the hat, and, whole nine yards. Well, I'm sitting here scanning through my someone on Twitter said, I just found a Urim and Thummim on sale on eBay. I think your subject matter sent me on a search. Well, it's almost that bad, sadly, because I'm going through my Facebook stuff, and I see Sandra Tanner saying, so that's what the Seer Stone looked like. Even she was like, wow. And lo and behold, the Mormon Church has published a picture of the actual Joseph Smith Seer Stone, which is still locked away in a vault. They've had it the whole time. The whole time that Gerald and Sandra were talking about the Seer Stone, their prophets and apostles could go into that vault and they could open up, a certain box, and there would be the Seer Stone that Joseph Smith himself used. They knew it was there. They knew it was there. So here it is. Why don't we show everybody? There's the Seer Stone, folks. Brown egg-sized rock. It's about the size of a rock, and it's smooth, well, relatively speaking, and it's got brown bands on it, and looks like it came from a stream, something like that, been worn smooth. And there's the Seer Stone that Joseph Smith would put into his hat, and the spiritual light would shine. And that some of the three witnesses, at least one of the three witnesses, I've forgotten who, was it David Whitmer or Oliver Cowdery? Somebody said that this is what he used to translate the Book of Mormon. I don't know how this religion is going to survive. I really don't. Any intelligent Mormon who wants to validate the foundation of his or her faith now has such ease of access to such a tremendous amount of information that is simply beyond refutation. I mean, the Book of Abraham alone, the Book of Abraham papyrus, the facsimiles in the Pearl of Great Price, more than enough to demonstrate that Joseph Smith was a huckster. He was pulling the wool over people's eyes. And all of Mormonism is just the result of Joseph Smith's hucksterism. That's all it is. And now you get the Seer Stone. A singularly unimpressive item, to be perfectly honest with you. But there you go. I've been saying for a long time, I just do not know what the future is going to hold for the LDS Church, but I cannot see it holding together. The internal pressures, and it's not just the advent of information on the internet and the ease of the obtaining of that information, all the rest of that stuff. It's not just that. The internal pressures that Mormonism has brought upon itself, that the attempt to mainstream, the attempt to send their scholars out to get degrees in non-LDS universities, they've brought back so much that has fundamentally changed the nature of Mormonism that I cannot see how they're going to survive. I just cannot see how they're going to avoid a major split.